Hello, boils and ghouls. You are now tuned in to PVD Horror Podcast. Pleasant screams.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PVD Horror Podcast. My name is Dave. I'm joined here with my co-host, Brandon. And today we have a special guest. We have writer-director Felipe Vargas, who is directing the upcoming film Rosario, which will be in theaters on May 2nd, I believe. Felipe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. That's right. May 2nd, coming up soon. And thank you guys for taking the time for having me on.
Absolutely.
No problem. So Felipe, I always want to know, when we have guests on, what was your earliest experience with horror and how did it influence you?
That's a good question, man. I grew up summers in Colombia in South America, where I'm from, campfire tales, with my grandpa about the monster in the woods, the one-legged monster or the crying woman, or all these like lores and folk tales that would just scare the crap out of me. Or the aliens and the stars, and they were so vivid, man. When you're out there and it's quiet and you're just hearing the crickets, it's terrifying, dude. So I grew up on that, and I loved it since I was a kid, man. I was making little horror short films with my family and my cousins. I would tie homemade prosthetics to my dog that was a movie monster, and I would build like the miniature cardboard set and the dog going over the cardboard, or my cousins would flip a coin to figure out who would get killed in the next short film.
Yeah.
So it was fun, man. Always making stuff in this vein, and always a fan.
So, growing up in Colombia, obviously, you've mentioned having like being exposed to lore and different creatures and things like that. But I mean, not everybody immediately gravitates to that stuff as they get older. So what do you think it was about like hearing those stories or hearing like different mythology that really like captivated you and made you want to incorporate it in future films as an adult?
Yeah, man, it's definitely the adrenaline. And I think when I started making these shorts, the reaction you get from an audience is just so tangible, and it's so real, and it's so fun to to freak out your aunties or parents. When I was a kid showing them my short films, it was just like such a rush, man. So I've always loved this genre. And I think what horror does that very few other genres do is it just blends all the departments, like full scale special effects, makeup, VFX, camera, like sound. You need it all,
Yeah.
So versus some other genres that are focused on one or the other, like horror is the perfect blend, the perfect storm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. So Felipe, a while back, there was an announcement made that you would be directing an upcoming Leprechaun film with Lionsgate. Can you give us an update on that project? Because, we've heard like some noise here and there, but we never got the full story about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I stepped away from that project, so I'm no longer attached.
Okay.
All right.
Nice. Now, also, you work on a lot of short films like Hive and Milk Teeth. It has been outstanding. Can you describe the experience of moving on to like a full-length feature film?
Yeah, man, it's a big jump, but at the same time, it's the same thing. You just gotta go back to set for 4 or 5 weeks straight and do the same thing every day after day. So it really did prepare me super well, and I'm someone who can't sit still. I loved doing these horror shorts. Milk Teeth, we garnered a really great audience on YouTube, and it led to all these projects. And then with Hive, that one stars Xochitl Gomez from Doctor Strange, and we're going to be doing it into a feature with Tubi. I'm actually heading to South Africa to shoot that in 2 weeks. So that's the next project. But anyways, the jump to Rosario, it felt both really comfortable because, at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing. You're telling stories, trying to set up a scare, and trying to create something that's emotional and feels raw. And at the same time, what I've learned on the feature is that it's a marathon. It's 20, 30 days back to back, but it also becomes a family with the actors and the crew. You just grow so close to everybody. And what was really special about this feature is getting to shoot it, for me, in Colombia. We shot in Colombia and New York, but a lot of it was in my hometown. So it was very full circle to get to shoot it there.
Absolutely. So Alan Treza was the writer for Rosario. Did you know Alan prior? And like, also, like, how did you, when you saw this, this writing, how did you feel? Did you immediately feel attached to it because it kind of fits some of the themes that you already like were inspired by growing up?
Alan Treza is a legend. He's an amazing horror comedy writer. I mean, I'd seen his films, and what he does super well is blend the humor, the dark humor, into his projects. So I'm immediately connected to. And I read the script, and it was like it was like fate, man. Like I read it, and I'm like, this is it. Like this is everything I love. Yeah. It's body horror, it's dark humor, it's gore, it's a lot of special effects, but it's also a lot of heart to it. Him and I were both Colombian American. We both were born in Colombia, but grew up in the States. So we just understood each other. And those themes, they're in the script about, immigration and sacrifice and what you leave behind. All of that was in there to make a horror story that was like really fun and really bombastic, a roller coaster ride, but also emotional and compelling.
Sure.
Nice. Now, can you give the listeners a synopsis of the film?
Yeah, absolutely. Rosario is the story of a successful Latina on Wall Street. Her estranged grandmother passes away. She goes to grandmother's apartment to take care of the corpse while she's waiting for the apartment, and ends up getting stuck with grandma's corpse because of the snowstorm. The whole film is a claustrophobic, one night, almost real time, where grandma's death, essentially, grandma had a lot of secrets. So she had secret scars on her legs and arms, secret rooms, dead animals in her walls, and Rosario starts to discover all these secrets, and grandma's death essentially triggers this supernatural demon being unleashed. So Rosario is dealing with a lot that night, and it's just a fun, contained roller coaster ride of horror.
Yeah, it definitely is. Also, taglines are something me and Dave enjoy, and we believe this one is spot on. It's short and sweet. You can't escape the curse, So, how
straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. Dave, you got a question?
Yeah. So, as far as the casting goes for this, you have some pretty well-known actors here. With Paul Van Victor, who I think is one of those actors where if you don't know his name, you absolutely know his face if you don't know the name. And then we have genre favorite David Dastmalchian. What was it like working with the both of them? Just being experienced actors and two people who are just really good at the craft.
They're both incredible. Like they were so extraordinary and such different ways of working too. Like Paul Van Victor, he's one of those guys who it just immerses himself in the character. Like he had like a little rock, a stub in his shoe that he put there so he would have a limp. And he didn't take that thing off for 2 weeks, so he was limping around set. And he's someone who he'll walk around the location and he just feels the space and feels the walls and he just immerses himself. And he also brought pages of dialogue ideas for his character, which, I'd never seen an actor do before, and they're some of the best lines in the movie. So Paul Van Victor is incredible. David Dastmalchian, too, is just one of the best actors I've ever worked with. He is someone who just snaps in and out of it, and he's the kindest guy, but he's also just so sharp, so smart. He's someone, he would ask me, to give him notes midway through a take. I would yell out, try this or try that, and he would just pivot. His entire performance would just completely reshift, and he would just do it with such precision.
Yeah. And
we'd schedule, I think he did all of his scenes in one day because he was just so good. It was one take and we were moving on. So I'll just say both fantastic actors, and it was amazing to work with them.
And just kind of also expanding on the cast, two other super effective actresses. Our main one, who plays Rosario. I'll allow you to pronounce her name so I don't butcher it. But also the grandmother as well. I mean, as soon as you see her in the first scene, you're like, oh, all right. There's, that casting for her was amazing. Like she just exuded creepiness. But yeah, if you can just speak on them a little bit.
So the grandma Constanza, she had an intensity to her. I would talk to her, and she just had those piercing eyes. I was a little scared myself. And we also had a dummy version of her. So we had her basically her body, which is like kind of a prank. We would move it around, put it in people's hotels rooms.
I love
it was
that.
so real. It was so real, and then the nerve endings. It was really the makeup team did a great job. And then there was a third version with like a giant mouth where you could stick the hand through for the hand scene for the horror scene. Spoiler alert. But no, she was great and also so patient because the makeup for that role would take 3-4 hours, and it's a lot. It's a heavy thing, and she did it so well. And Emerald, I mean, I can't say enough about Emerald. We wanted to cast this sort of strong Latina, someone who could just really like have drive and lead the film and be like a smart horror action hero. And she just nailed it. I mean, that's her personality. She's direct and bold and incredible. So I was really happy, and she carried the movie from minute one to the last minute.
She had a big responsibility. She had to carry so many scenes. So I mean, for someone who was able to do that so seamlessly and effortlessly for the most part, I think that was pretty impressive. I think she put in a stellar performance.
Yeah, and she actually comes from the rom-com world. So I would see her in With Love and some of the Hallmark movies, and it was her first horror movie. When you called her up, she was like, I don't even watch horror movies. I'm scared to. I don't know if I can do this. I've never, dealt with worms and blood and vomit.
Sure.
But she just had this humor to her and this kind of boldness and this strength that I think fit the character really, really well.
Brandon, you can probably get your mother-in-law to watch this because then she loves Hallmark movies.
Yeah, she loves it. I think this to be a little bit too much for her.
Tell her nothing. Tell her it stars Emerald Tulivia.
Yeah. Now, Felipe, given your upbringing surrounding like with your grandparents' stories and legends, how meaningful was this film on a personal level for you?
It was so meaningful, man, to do this in Colombia, to return home. I moved when I was very young, but to make this movie there was amazing, man. And I even was able to cast my parents as extras, my grandparents. So it was just one of those things that was very comfortable and familial. And also to just employ so many Colombians and help the economy and the industry there, to me, was very, very special. We also shot in New York. And New York to me is one of the most amazing cities in the world. The film is set in New York. So to film on the streets of Manhattan and Brooklyn, that was something else too. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So you said, yourself being from Colombia, and you also said Alan is also from Colombia. So let me ask you this question. Is there anything that you think is portrayed in this film that is like specific, like every cultural, like family dynamic has like their own thing, right? Like, is there anything that's very to you, like very Colombian family dynamic that is presented in this film that maybe would be caught by like someone who's from that culture would understand, but maybe the outsider would kind of miss it?
Yeah, man, we ended up, so the family in the film is more so Mexican with a little bit of Cuban heritage. But I think what any Latino can relate to is that opening party, the First Communion, which is a huge deal in Latin culture and a lot of cultures. And the family dynamics where, someone's whispering to somebody and there's gossip spreading and there's the kids playing and everybody is just stirring and the music. I think hopefully people really connect with that opening scene. And also the more emotional themes of a dad who wants what's best for his daughter, of a kid, an immigrant kid especially, who just wants to, succeed and get out there in life. I think a lot of folks can relate to that, hopefully.
Do you think that sometimes this is also a part of it? Is there like sometimes some mystery to like what our grandparents or their parents, like what they're doing sometimes, or some of their history that like we don't know because they only show us what they want us to see?
Oh, that's so true, man. I mean, I feel like every time I'm at a family reunion, I learn something new, some big secret or some big scandal that is
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
brushed under the rug or is just never spoken about. Like, yeah, your aunt did this or that. It's like, whoa, I did not know that. So I think that's something that is it's true in a lot of cultures, but especially Latino cultures, where you just have these big families and there's a lot you might not know.
Yeah. I kind of see some of it almost as like an analogy for like using like the occult or things like that as an analogy for almost like some of the struggles that some of the older generation might deal with, and they kind of like keep to themselves. They don't, you don't talk about like mental health issues of the older generations. So like in some ways this film almost is like about uncovering some of the things that were, you know, kind of hidden away in the closet, right? So I kind of got that message from the film a little bit.
Literally hidden away
Yeah.
in the closet. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I look at my own grandparents and their lives, how different it was from mine, and the things that they had to do for me to be where I am and to be able to live in LA and make this movie. It feels like that sacrifice and that the burden of that sacrifice, that to me is what this movie's about at its core. And I think the best horror movies, conscious or not, they're about something and they have something to say, or they capture kind of the feeling of a generation. And I hope this movie, reaches people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Felipe, I have to say, even from when I had first seen Milk Teeth, just the way that you were able to capture like every scene on that where like the kids were kind of going through everything, like taking their teeth out and just the monsters. The way that you incorporated this into Rosario was special also, you know what I mean? And it also made me feel the same way. Like you said, it gave it that claustrophobic vibe, like feeling. What was it like, adding those elements into your films?
Yeah, I guess I have a weird thing for teeth and mouth body horror.
Yeah.
But yeah, Milk Teeth was really fun, man. I encourage people
Hmm.
who haven't checked it out to
Yeah.
take a look. It's on YouTube. And this was just a big step up in terms of an escalation of some of that body horror. And
Hmm.
I was able to really play with that's just kind of bold imagery of the claws coming out of the mouth
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
the worms going through the skin. All of that was so much fun, man. But in terms of your question, like why I dig that sort of body horror, I think it's just something that it can be, yeah, just an instant reaction, It's something that
Yeah.
is so like visceral. It hits like deep for an
Yep.
audience and for people. So I think it's something that we do. It's just like buried deep inside us, those kind of reactions to those things.
Yeah. Um, Aside from like, you know, personal stories that maybe influenced you that you heard growing up, did you have to do any research on occult or mythical stuff to prepare for this film?
Yeah, yeah. So this film particularly deals with something called Palo, that is sort of a sister religion tradition to Santeria, even a little bit of voodoo. It's in that vein.
Hmm.
It's a little less known, and it tends to be a little darker because they use human sacrifices,
Ooh.
human remains, and animal remains. But it's all about sacrifice. So that's why we really landed on this culture. Did a ton of research, man. Me, the production designer, we went to some botanicas in New York and then in Colombia where they sold a lot of these items. And we started talking to them and they became advisors on the project. They even offered to create one of those cauldrons with real animal and real human remains.
Wow.
And I thought about it, I pushed for it, but it wouldn't have been the most sanitary thing.
Yeah.
But this stuff is real, man, and there's a side of it that's dark, but there's also like a beautiful side because it's a way to connect with the spirits of your ancestors, which is what this movie's about, man. It's about understanding parents, grandparents, great grandparents, what they went through. So it all felt very connected, and yeah, we definitely did a deep dive into that world.
I love that you got some like professional or expert
Yeah.
guidance, but did that also kind of add an element of like pressure to make sure to capture it right and not come off as like unknowledgeable or offensive in some way? Because I mean, it's, you know, it's re- a religious practice or spiritual practice, so it's
Exactly.
very sensitive,
Hmm.
right?
It is sensitive, but I think showcasing it in the forefront of films and entertaining films, horror films and genre films. I think that's the way you get something out there in a big way. And I also think that ultimately Rosario's journey is one of understanding and acknowledging. So yes, she starts freaked out by this world, but by the end, she's reading one of the rituals for her grandmother who's passed away, a ritual, a sort of prayer to the ancestors. And she has her own little shrine at the end in her office. So the whole idea is kind of embracing these cultures and rituals. And I never, felt, I did feel the responsibility, but I also felt like we hopefully did it right. And between our advisors and even the folks I grew up with who weren't paleros, but they were mediums. My aunts were mediums, getting their feedback and their advice on the film. And yeah, man, the occult, all that world is something that just really fascinates and intrigues me. So it's cool to dig in a little deeper.
I love that. I'm the same. That stuff intrigues me so much. It's probably a good thing you didn't use human remains, because then you probably would have ended up on the next season of cursed films, like Poltergeist. And that isn't that why they say that film was cursed, because they used human skeletons in the scene. So you never know.
We did have some weird things like early on in the shoot, like the day before filming. I had a dream of this woman with really long hair, and it wasn't even a dream. She was in the room. I've never had sleep paralysis before. I dismissed it as sleep paralysis, but then she looked exactly like the creature in the movie. And I was talking to someone on set, and someone tells me I had the same dream. I think it was an AC. I said, what? We had the same dream, same night. And then the third person says the same thing. It was freaky, brought someone in to bless the set, and then I changed the words and the rituals, because we would do these ritual scenes and it would just start pouring or candles would go out. So we changed all the words so it's not as accurate. And that stuff, I fully believe in the power of some of these rituals and beliefs, for sure.
I wish I was on that set.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So a lot of the shots in this film and the lighting were just so perfect and fitting. What is that shot called? Like how most of the times like they were following Rosario and behind her, it's just kind of like moving side to side. Like what is that called?
Yeah, like when the camera's kind of rotating like this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Dutch angle or a cant.
Okay.
And I love that. It was kind of a throwback to some 70s movies would do that. They would also use a lot of zooms, which has gone kind of out of fashion, but we did a lot of like slow zoom ins, a lot of Dutch angle cants, just things that I feel like for this film, the idea was that it's a roller coaster ride. The camera's always moving.
Yeah.
And it's the same space, so you got to make it interesting. I look at Raimi, what he does with the camera, what Scorsese does with their cameras. They're just always coming in and moving, and they're not afraid to just be bold with it. So with the DP&I, we really tried to, mix it up and keep it interesting. With the lighting too, you have the sort of green moonlight look. You've got the candles on, you've got the red curtains. When she closes it, it becomes red. The train passing and like violently flashing the lights, just keeping the apartment unique and interesting. That was kind of the visual approach.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just one more kind of question in regards to that. Also, like, what do you feel is key to helping to build like a feeling of claustrophobia when you're filming? Because I mean, we've seen 1,000 films within apartment settings, but not all of them have like that close, like locked in feeling that's created in this film.
Yeah, we did a lot of different things to give you that sort of claustrophobic feel. I think it starts with the set. We were able to build that apartment that's not a real apartment, but we designed every square inch of that apartment. And that way you're able to even move in the walls or design the holes in the walls from where we're going to put the camera above. Or that feeling that if you look down this hallway and through this door, you can see the chamber, like it all lines up perfectly. So it comes from a design standpoint. And then I think part of it is also from a camera standpoint, just building these sequences that build the tension and get closer and closer. And it just gives you a little glimpse of something, but doesn't show you enough. So your imagination kind of fills in what's around her. All of that and more to just try to build and rack up the suspense as much as we could.
Awesome. So one of the things I've been seeing a lot lately online is when there's a new movie coming out, I'll see some content creators like offering films that they feel you should watch before you check out such and such, right? So what films would you recommend people watch before they watch Rosario to kind of get them in the mood for Rosario?
Yeah, that's a really good one, man. I would say like something old school Mexican, like El Vampiro, but then some Sam Raimi, Evil Dead 2,
Yep.
these like an Italian, like Giallo, those really colorful, like Argento movies, or even like Suspiria, maybe. What else would I put on this list? I think those are the three or four that I would kind of list up front.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep. Spot on.
Yeah. And that's such a wide variety of influences too, which I think everybody can appreciate. It kind of takes a little bit from so many different styles. So that's a really nice list right there. Also, I just wanted to ask you, kind of in the realm of making films about like the occult or kind of like mythical or lore, is there any like dream project you have or something that like you feel you would love to create a film about?
Man, that's a really good question. There's a couple of not super well known lores in South America that I think are fascinating. There's Pata Sola, which is the one-legged woman, and you'll hear these kind of offbeat footsteps, and that means she's coming. La Llorona, that's been done a couple of times, but I love that story. But the further you hear the crying, the closer she actually is. I think that one is terrifying. There's a couple of like river monsters. Trying to think of a big one. Those are just a couple. And beyond that, like I really want to expand to do sort of magical realism. There's a lot of literature in South America. I love Marquez and Borges and telling those stories as well. So we'll see. We'll see what comes together. And the last thing I'll say is like I want to do like an Aztec epic. Like I love the Aztec and the Mayan world, and those also have like super fascinating lores. I think there's a really good story there.
And aesthetically, like just cool visuals that can be created with that and settings and stuff like that. I would love to see something like that.
Yeah.
Really
they have some insane like stories and the stories of like their creation story of their gods and their creatures. Like that's really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, Felipe, let me ask you, is there anything that you want to share with our viewers about Rosario to kind of, get them excited for checking it out or, just to kind of let them know what they're in store for?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a labor of love. If you love horror, if you love independent horror, check this one out. I think a couple of things make this film really special. Besides being Latino crew, Latino-led horror film, the special effects we put into this, almost everything is handcrafted, tangible, handmade, and it's also just a roller coaster ride of fun. So hope people have a chance to check it out. Also, if you're a fan of David Dismalchian on the horror world or Emerald Tubia on the rom-com world, like let's bring them together and come check out this movie.
Hallmark meets Shudder is a great brand connection right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Felipe, let people know where they can find you on social media if you're on there.
I am on Instagram, Felipe_Vargas F. You can find me on Instagram there. And you can check out more info on the movie, rosario.movie, I think is the website. And we're hitting theaters May 2nd. So the tickets are available now.
Perfect. All right. Well, Felipe, thank you so much for joining the show and talking Rosario. Please keep us posted in the future. If you have any upcoming projects you want to come on and talk about it, we'd love to have you back on. This was a pleasure.
Man. I would love that. Thank you so much, Dave Brandon. Appreciate you both taking the time. And see you guys at the movies.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Felipe.
All right, everybody. May 2nd, check out Rosario. We'll see you later. Have a good one.
Game over. You lose.